correctly and properly according to particular rules. I think if poetry is about anything, it's about really being able to do anything. And for me, doing anything is being able to experiment with language and change it around. And a lot of the found language that you see, the language that isn't sort of canonical, is to me very interesting. And I've become very more interested recently in incorporating that into my work. So the Be Fire to the Saints is a good example of that.
So you haven't got there's no manifesto in terms of, is it playful simply for the fact of being playful? Is there a message in it?
I don't think there is any message. There is any message. It's just that it's a message of sort of linguistic freedom, really. It's in that poetry can be more about just saying what happened to you in the language that is given to you.
Right. Okay.
You can talk about all sorts of things in all sorts of different ways. You can incorporate all sorts of different voices.
And what about our lives being fragmentary? I mean, is there some element of that? Is it some sort of wasteland?
I think your life is inevitably fragmentary. I think in the protocols in this book, that would really be the theme of them, I suppose, is that your life is fragmentary and your experience is fragmentary, and it's very difficult to say what people might have felt in the past, but I suppose maybe 50, 100 years ago there wasn't this sort of constant bombardment of data and information, and things like the protocols in this book are really about that bombardment. They're about being absolutely saturated with information from all sides all the time. I mean, I work with computers during the day because, regrettably, I'm not a pale aesthete in a garret writing symbolist verse and being spoon-fed brandy and madeleines. I do have to work for a living, and I work with computers during the day, so it's really a reflection of my experience. And in some ways I do programming database work, and some of that has sort of influenced my my writing, I think, and it would be easy in some ways to sort of dismiss that as a non-poetic source and say you want to keep it out and keep your poetry as some sort of secret garden that is sort of separate from your life. But in some ways computer language, database language, programming language, whatever, is very much part of what I was talking about before. There are many different streams. It's not just about poetry being a particularly correct version of English in which only certain words are allowed and certain constructs are allowed. And so, A Priori really is about me trying to embrace the world as a whole and to bring the world as a whole into writing, and to not be just writing about traditional poetic things in a traditionally poetic way, but to recognise that there are all sorts of different influences, all sorts of different interesting linguistic things happening around you all the time, and that nothing is uninteresting.
Okay, well, I've got two questions I'm going to ask at the same time that I think lead on from that, but perhaps are fragmentary to what we were discussing in any case, but they're questions that I'd like to ask. The first one, so I'm going to ask two. The first one is, how would you describe your work? I mean, in terms of, does it need to fit into a movement? Would you call it conceptual? Would you call it, I know someone's called it neo-fluxus, so I don't know if I agreed with that. Is there a new word? I'm looking for something with neo, because I think your work's quite different from other people's, and it's mixing sort of language elements and conceptual work. And the other question I wanted to ask is, slightly going backwards to what you were saying before, how do you think people should be able to read computer language? Do you think people do read computer language who are reading poetry? Because I know an awful lot of people do read computer language, and I meet them, but they don't tend to be poets in not reading computer language in the way perhaps that it's in your poetry or that your poetry refers to.
Well, we're talking about how descriptions really. I mean, I think it would be foolish to avoid the word postmodern. I think postmodern is something that I think practically everybody is, really, in the sense of the book isn't presenting itself as a discrete work. It is acknowledging, or I am acknowledging, that other things exist outside the universe of the book, and they are present in the book. So there are lots of references to culture, to popular culture in particular. Postmodern has become a bit of a pejorative word, really, but in some ways it's a label, if you want to call it a label. It's a description that I'm quite comfortable with. I am quite comfortable with the fact that I was born and I am sort of alive at the time of the culture being quite developed, I suppose, and there is a lot of history, and I think postmodern is being aware of what's gone before and using that and not trying to shut it out of your work. So in terms of a new label, I don't know a new word, I don't know.
Is there anything beyond postmodern? Is it?
I don't know. I mean, I think the word you used before, fragmentary, maybe neo-fragmentary.
Right.
Fragmentary is quite an interesting description.
It's joined, isn't it? Because these fragments are in actual fact they are joined. That's what we're saying.
They're joined by me, and if I write in any way that's communicative, other people will apprehend those joins too. But in some ways, I'm quite happy to be fragmentary. I think there's always this advice that you get from people that you should write about what you know, which people generally mean that you should write about particular small scale or larger scale tragedies that have happened to you. But I think in A Priori I am writing about what I know. I'm writing about the experience of being alive now, which I feel is quite an intense bombardment.
It must be a hell of an experience.
Well, I can say it's an experience for everybody, I think.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm trying to do with poems that mess around, if you will, with space, with structure, with non-linguistic, non-verbal figures, is to really reflect how I feel every day, which is that I don't know what's going on, and there are lots of different things happening all at once, and that's what I've tried to. So rather than try to make each poem into a smooth work of art, I've tried to reflect the sort of messy, fragmentary nature of how I feel life is experienced. There's another question, wasn't it? What was
I think that answers in some way the other question, which was, do poetry audiences know how to read computerized language or language that's synonymous to that, or pseudo-computer language?
I think in the book I haven't really put anything that you can call strictly computer language. I mean, it's more computer-influenced structure, syntax. I haven't made it sort of particularly technical, I don't think, but I hope that it's just another sort of. It's all. I think the book is all about appropriation. It's all about different voices, and I think sort of that particular weird sort of technical, functional language is in its own way very beautiful, and I've tried to appropriate that into my own work, and I think I hope I've tried to do it in a way, and I hope to succeed in doing this in making it poetic in a way. So I haven't really sort of made it, I haven't just sort of put in a big lump of code, for example, though that in itself would be quite interesting. I have to sort of, it's more, rather than the actual words itself, I think it's more to do with the block-like structure. I think, and I noticed in my work that I'd started to put in sort of dashes and separate things off into blocks. I couldn't really work out why I'd done that until I realised that's what I was doing every day.
Poetic work?
Yeah, in my poetic work. Yeah. And I couldn't really it took me a while to realise that perhaps the reason for me doing that was perhaps because that's what I did.
Mm.
That's the idiom that I work with. And the block-like structure is for me quite interesting. The idea of breaking up the poem as a smooth object. it's quite interesting to me.
Okay, we're going to get you to read one more poem, which is Logbook.
Okay.
Let's see how this one
will be
goes,
very
because this is in prose paragraphs. As the poem goes along, gradual parts get deleted. It's in 8 stanzas.
Is it 8 or is it 9? It's 8, you're right, yeah. The last one has a scheme to delete certain letters, which is taking alternate letters of the alphabet out. Okay, logbook. First sun raid on archives, covert facsimiles, parchment, vellum, mode of ingress, diagram, attic. Embarkation, fast river, not time, adjourn, rain-soaked tennis courts, light, night, shades, oblique relationship, this, that, other elisions, her turning, third season, sudden conflagration, red, gold. All measurable, certain techniques, calculations, complex but piecemeal, resulting concrete conclusions, but she ghosts and not always even sees sometime on face of waters and tilted mirror, acute, layered, mist reveals only secluded passageway in which small botanicals glisten fragmented. This there are no signifiers, but yes, in seclusion fire orchids, birds released in accordance, tide tables, indices, precipitation, sky, certain bodies manifest, illuminati, must be counted, quantified, rods, ivory hazel in ledger, 2 columns, debit, credit, link invisible, but certain conditions satisfiable in sequence. From tower observation, bird patterns, cloud configured obscura, periscope, 5 droplets rain on palm, out spreading shadows long in anteroom casement, water upsurge, no sleep, 6 days, cardinal numbers, galeros, procession, tall trees, windows, in this reflection, face, bird cloud, omens. Blizzard effacement, lateral road impassable, dawn pure light in prisms, struck sidereal lambent, amber refraction in rice bowl, Milky Way, star frozen moon mirror map, illegible, 6 snowflakes on beard, 6 cities dreamed of, long slow hours, evenings, poultice infusion, vivid sweet stinging. Chart digression, leaves, translucent, watermark offer, new route, trusted roads, obscured penumbra, long shadows, forgotten trees, compass, haywire, lead-lined knapsack, loads, stone, heat retained haze of dandelions, daisies, sun slant eyes, elusive offer, acceptance, muttered, imprecation, curse never lifted. Astrolabe, sextant, chronometer, octant, Kamal, chip, log, sand, glass, quadrant, ring dial, sounding line, eyeglass, barometer, mass, colour spectrometer, dividing engine, alidade, equatorium, crosshair, armillary sphere, volvel, cosmolave, rotational modulation, collimator, gunmetal, snuff box, inlaid, nacra. Om ie mia gu o gasom es kuing o a sawa a su o eyes kaska so o iki I s e iwa sa a o I es mike o osko ik iak ku u wo I wick me a ik I usui I a se I s I guy I e ema as a u s me c I a ka I ax a es emo egam car io I s eos a o c r ocuosios. Fantastic. 6 snowflakes on beard. Wow. All right. Thanks, Tom. Good night. From me.